Dan Illman, Bank Beer, taking a look back at the 2021 Breeders' Cup Sprint at Delmar. And on paper, this race was supposed to be a coronation for odds-on favorite Jackie's Warrior. Well, they don't run races on paper. They run them on the track. As they break from the gate, Jackie's Warrior shows his usual good early speed, but he is set upon early by both Special Reserve and Matera Sky.
Yeah, true enough. I mean, he doesn't, necessarily make an easy lead here, Dan. He has his speed. He's going to get to the front and at the rail here, but they're going to keep this horse under pressure all the way. And it's, when all is said and done, it's hard to find an excuse for Jackie's Warrior, Dan. The two horses that are keeping up with him now both finish ahead of him.
Meanwhile, tracking the duel in the second flight, Dr. Chivelle on the outside is licking his chops at the prospect of running at this duel. Following C is down inside. He gets a little bit unlucky.
They both sat in good positions early in this race. Dr. Chivelle is lucky enough to be on the outside. Following C is going to try to come up the rail here at the top of the stretch, and he's not going to make it. And it's going to certainly cost him something here. Dr. Chivelle, boy, what a big race he runs, though, Dan. He comes 4 wide to the stretch. He takes this thing right over. He is going to take a very tough beat at the end of this race.
And right here, it looks like Dr. Chivelle is on his way. Jackie's Warrior has called it a day, but down the crown of the track comes Jose Ortiz and Aloha West. He had been waiting for a big pace. He got it, and he somehow got the bob.
Yeah, I mean, boy, did he run another good race here. This is Aloha. He was not a stakes winner leading into this race, Dan, but he had run well in every one of his prior 8 starts. He got a setup here. He came with a really big run. That was a brutal loss for Dr. Chivelle, but it's not like Aloha West got lucky here, Dan. He ran a big race in his own right.
He earned a 100 buyer speed figure, did Aloha West, a 4-year-old son of Hard Spun for trainer Wayne Catalano. Let's look at the order of finish, and let's start a little bit with Jackie's Warrior, who just seemed flat, Mike. He showed speed, but he didn't show the acceleration we'd seen in some of his other races, creating some separation when it mattered on the turn. The pace setters were able to stick with him, and then all of a sudden the stalkers were upon him, and he was done.
Yeah, he just didn't run his best race here, not even close to it. Did make the early lead, as you saw there, but he, worked hard to even get there. Couldn't really get away from the chasers around the turn, which we were so used to seeing him do in his good performances. And you could just tell as they turned into the stretch here that he was not going to win this race, Dan. This just wasn't the good Jackie's Warrior that we had seen all year long.
I thought Special Reserve ran just fine to be 4th, Mike, best of the 3 pace horses. I was actually surprised at how much speed this horse has. He had always shown good tactical speed, but he was right up there fighting it on the outside, and he hung on for a minor award.
He ran very well in this race, did a lot of the hard work up on the pace with the favorite, had that horse put away at the top of the stretch, got himself to actually a short lead there. I mean, you could sort of tell that he wasn't going to be able to hold on. Dr. Chivelle didn't have that much trouble taking over from him about the 8th pole, but this horse ran very well here. This was a good 4th place finish.
What does this do to the sprint division? We, of course, still have the Malibu for 3-year-olds at the end of the year. Jackie's Warrior was coming into this race as the heavy favorite to be named champion male sprinter. This puts a little bit of a dent in his armor.
Yeah, I mean, I suppose it does. I mean, when you take his form apart, I still think he's probably the favorite to get that award. But when you take his form apart, there's really only one grade 1 win on his card in that Jerkins at Saratoga, where he just ran a huge race. I don't know who else you could really vote for. We'll see how much credit they give Aloha West for picking up this big win here, Dan, because the older sprinters this year, they just were not a solid bunch. And it felt like Jackie's Warriors race for the Eclipse to lose. I wonder if he lost it.
Could you give consideration for Dr. Chivelle, who was just pipped at the wire and was undefeated this year coming in, the gate-to-wire win in the Santa Anita Sprint Championship, despite Pratt losing a rein, coming from off the pace in some of his other races? It was a light campaign, but you could argue he ran the best of the horses in here.
Yeah, I mean, listen, he also has a grade 1 win this year. He came into this race undefeated, and he ran a giant race on the day. So there's certainly a case to be made for this horse.
Todd Pletcher had tried some different things with Following C, stretched him out in a race like the Haskell. I think this is what he wants, Mike. I think he's a 1-turn horse, and I'm looking forward to seeing some more of him.
Yeah, me too. I mean, it was nice to see him, finally, sort of really break through with a good race here. And I just, I think it's fair to wonder how unlucky he actually was, Dan. I mean, I don't know that you could really say that he was going to win this race if he got through on the top of the stretch, but he might have. I mean, he might have been right there at the end, and it would have been a significant step forward for this horse. His win in the Vosburg on the way in, it was just sort of the kind of race that was handed to him on an easy lead against only 3 other rivals in there. So I thought he was pretty hard to gauge. When he faced Jackie's Warrior 2 back, he got dusted.
And then you had the old guard, CZ Rocket, the runner-up of the 2020 Breeders' Cup Sprint and the leader earlier in this year, and the quality Firenze Fire. CZ Rocket just can't get out of the gate anymore, it seems. It just looks like he's getting a little bit sour, and Firenze Fire couldn't keep up.
Yeah, Firenze Fire just couldn't keep up. It's been a long campaign and a long career for Firenze Fire. Would have liked to have seen him go out with maybe a little more gas in the tank, but he just couldn't really get himself involved here. CZ Rocket's just one of those sprinters, doesn't have a lot of speed. He had plenty of pace to run at here, but he couldn't make an impact.
Let's take a look at the prices for this year's Breeders' Cup Sprint. Aloha West to the tune of $24.60, just getting up in the very last stride to deny the 3-year-old Dr. Scheibel. Following C for Todd Pletcher, a little bit of trouble, finishing 3rd. Jackie's Warrior finished 6th. Aloha West, a son of Hard Spun, gets the big stakes victory in the sprint.